We often talk about service and identity beyond the badge. Valor Technical Cleaning is a veteran-owned, nationwide biohazard remediation company hiring active and retired officers for business development roles. With Valor, you can build relationships with local agencies and continue to foster care for the community following tragedy. Continue serving, just in a new way. Visit valortechnicalcleaning.com and click Careers. You train for the threats you can see, but what about the ones you can't? United Diagnostic Services brings hospital-grade diagnostic technology directly to first responder agencies, making early detection of cardiovascular disease and cancer more accessible than ever. UDS provides comprehensive early detection programs using advanced ultrasound, CT calcium scoring, stress echoes, and innovative blood panels to identify potential health risks long before symptoms appear. It's proactive, on-site, and built specifically for those who serve. Early detection saves lives and careers. Learn more at udshealth.com. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. All right, everyone, welcome back. Today we have a panel episode. We have two returning guests, which means that we have a couple veterans, but also gentlemen that run their own podcasts. So the expectations are very, very high for the listeners, I'm sure. But I am excited to bring back Doug White from episode 222, Greg Grogan from episode 152. And the reason why I love having this panel as we started bouncing around some ideas was really looking at the entirety of our career, but not just our career, our life, because they do come in tandem. We all have grappled with sacrificing one for the other, but that is to say that we're looking for advice and insights, lessons learned from recruit rookie to retiree, which, Doug, you've reached that ultimate job title, retiree, where you're doing all the stuff you want to do with the conviction you want to put into it. So without further, why don't we kick it off with Doug? Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name is Doug White, and man, I'm happy to be here, especially with both of you guys. Yeah. So I'm an older guy. I'm a retiree. I spent 14 and a half years in the Air Force. Uh, Before I went to the sheriff's office and during my time at the sheriff's office as an active reservist. But I got hired with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in the summer of 1998, full time. But January of '98 as a reserve officer. So I barely finished my training, and I think I was in like day 2 or 3 of phase 1 of field training when they called me and said, "Hey, do you want to get paid?" So yeah, man, busy agency. I think my last year, which was my last full year of 2022, we had over 1 million CAD calls for service. And in July of 23, we were over 700,000 when I retired. So yeah, man, it was busy. It was constant go, go, go. Um, 25 years there. I was in the training division, field training officer, bomb tech for about 6 or 7 years. Went through the leadership positions, and I really valued my career. I had a great time. Did all of the things that I wanted to do, and yeah, at the end of it all, 25 years to the day, I retired in July of 23, and woke up the next day trying to figure out who the hell I was. And, all of those things led into what I'm doing now, the book, Hiding in Plain Sight, my platform and podcast tell the story. And those are the things that kind of brought the three of us together and so many more people in this space. So I'm just, I'm just here to help out, man, to talk about where I could have done better. And, I shared with some kids at an academy graduation back in November that my story could be a cautionary tale or it could be a crystal ball. And it's out there for a cautionary tale, so you don't have to use it as a crystal ball. So,
Mhm.
yeah, man, just happy to be here with you guys. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I love that, Doug. I mean, you've illustrated uh, in so much detail through your book, also through your podcast interviews, shows you popped up on, conversations we've had on and off recording. But I would even flip it too, where yes, there is the aspect of a potential cautionary tale, but I think a lot of your mantra is like your story's not done, and you're out there crushing it. You've reflected so much. You lived this very balanced, meaningful, uh, forward focused life. I think that that's the goal that we need to look at as far as those that are in the industry or just navigating the stressors of life. Even if you're not a uniformed
Mhm.
personnel first responder, it is to say that we often bring things out of balance or we get pulled out of balance, a mixture therein. But really, it's just like recognizing what the stuff is, like why it is we do this stuff. So, thank you so much, Doug.
Mhm.
All right, Greg, kicking off to you.
Yeah. Just like what Doug said, I'm happy to be here. I know the three of us, it's cool what the three of us are collectively doing for our community. So yeah, quick intro about me. I'm Greg Grogan, the co-founder of the Overwatch Collective. I was a cop in California for 10 years in the Bay Area. Did 7.5 years in the Marine Corps, been in the Coast Guard, coming up on 6 years actually, in August, and about to re-up that contract here. Third generation military, fourth generation law enforcement. Pretty much came out of the womb knowing I was going to be in the military or cop wearing a uniform. Brother was a smart one and became a firefighter. Um, let's see, 10 years in California. I did patrol, motors, investigated fatality traffic collisions, honor guard, firearms instructor, SWAT team, drone operator. Wore way too many hats, Eric, like we talked about. I was way too busy on top of military reserve stuff. And then got married, came out to Louisiana. Now I'm a police officer in Lafayette. Been here for about a year on patrol, totally different than California policing, and loving life.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if the listeners don't already get the sense from what we've already discussed, these are two dudes. I'll put myself in there, especially in other chapters of my career in life where it was too much. And it doesn't feel like too much at the time. And sometimes it's a recognition, like, yeah, I got to do this thing. I got to keep grinding. Sometimes you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then sometimes that light keeps moving, or you actually keep backing up because you want to stay in that really productive, really helpful. Um, Uber busy mode. And sometimes that's not all a bad thing, but I will say, as I've said before, it's not sustainable. Um,
Mhm.
so although we're starting the show off with like this advice, and I don't want people to be like, man, I need to do less and try less. No, it's like recognizing that life in this career is a marathon, especially with the hurdles and challenges that you will face if you do any sort of uniform personnel work. I've never been a firefighter. Shout out to firefighters. I feel, as Greg just kind of said, a few years in, I was like, man, did I? I mean, as I shared before, a lot of doors open for policing for me, none with fire. So it was the path for me. But a few years in, I was like, man, wouldn't that be a sweet job, a sweet lifestyle? And 18 years in, I look at our counterparts, our brothers and sisters over there, and I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like sleeping in my bed, even if it is a lot later than I expected that day or that night. So I do recognize their struggles too. All right. Well, let's kick it off. So I kind of want to just open it up because we have such a span of listenership. We have those that are rookies, recruits, people looking to get hired. Even I've found out some teenagers that are like, hey, how do I get ready to be a cop? And I'm like, that is extremely humbling that you're listening to this. You're devoting that much insight or that much investment into developing yourself for this goal, which is pretty sweet. But with all that, all of our cumulative years, I kind of wanted to open it up and prompt for the rookies, for the new people, like what would you recommend that they focus on, or what do you want them to keep in mind? And we'll start with the theme of like wellness, and that can go anywhere you want it to. Greg, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind when we think of wellness, probably for like the newer first responder, is physical, right? Like it's like, oh, I got to get in shape, get prepared for the academy, the foot pursuits, um, and and that kind of thing. But I mean, obviously, what we focus on here is the mental side of things, right? So you have to be mentally prepared, ensure that you're in a good place mentally, and then also know what your resources are what some of your triggers are, what some of your coping mechanisms are, the healthy ones, not the unhealthy ones. And kind of just start there. Focus on the physical ones, the easy, right? Everybody loves working out. It's the great thing. It's just the mental fitness is sometimes what our community struggles with. So that's my 2 cents.
Nice. Doug, why don't you take it from there? What kicks up in you?
It's funny, a couple of things, and Greg's absolutely right. There's nothing that I could that add to that, that hadn't already been said. But I wanna talk about the physical fitness. I 2 things jumped into mind as soon as you started this conversation, Eric, and it was, 1, I was in the gym this morning, and I found myself, at 52, uh, was an avid triathlete, haven't raced in 2 years because 'cause I've been doing this thing, and that was the excuse that I used. Trying to get back in shape and stay in shape at 52, wishing I had taken better shape of myself or better care of my body because it's
Mm.
the only one we get. It's the only brain we get, the only heart we get. This is it. This is the vessel. And I think back to when I was running a police academy class back in, oh goodness, '06, when I was in the training division. And one of the recruits said, "I don't have to do this because look at the people that are out on the street right now. They're fat, blah, blah, blah. If they can do it, why do I have to do this now?"
You mean
Well,
cops?
what's that?
You mean cops?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do this in the academy, but whatever. This is not important because look at them. The size 50 duty belt and the full size handgun that looks like a UC carry because everything's so spread out on the gun belt. And, that was a horrible, horrible way to look at things because I always thought to myself, you have to be the hardest person that anybody tried to kill. You have to be in
Mhm.
shape. You have to be able to get up the stairs. You have to be able to move to cover while you're dragging the largest person in your squad or platoon to cover as well. And if not, you're a liability. So I used to think about that stuff as I was thinking about my own age and mortality today while lifting medium weights. And it gets harder. So if you take better care and you build good habits, good nutrition, garbage in, garbage out idea, young in your career, maintaining that on shift work, making better decisions, and knowing that these are the decisions you should be making are going to serve you in retirement. Because let's be honest, retirement goal is not to sit on the beach, go fishing. The retirement goal is to live long enough to bankrupt the state with your pension. That's it. That's it. I want them to send a hit team after me because they need to fill potholes and they don't have the money because they're paying me. And that's the goal. So take care of your body. And the second thing I'll add to that along that lines is had a recruit in my class had his finger on the trigger when he reholstered out on the range, sent a round through his femur, and it was a horrible, tragic accident. And he had his femur replaced by a titanium rod. The next night, I went into the hospital to see him, and he'd already been walking from his room to the nurse's station. And this guy, he's retired military, retired Air Force. So he's, at the time, I think he was 41 years old. And had he not been in the shape that he was in, he wouldn't have recovered from that. He's a sergeant on a SWAT team at a city PD here in the county that I live in. And, were it not for his fitness, even at that age, there's no way he would have recovered as well as he did and been able
Mhm.
to get back to work. So it's very important we take care of our mind and our body.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to recap and then also kind of spin off a couple things. And one thing I heard early on that Greg put out was like, know your resources. And I've heard that
Mhm,
adage and I've tried to share that adage early on, which is like socializing that, hey, like meet a therapist that you feel like okay about. Maybe they did your departmental training, maybe they are set up through some sort of resource through your department, your organization, or your region, but at least figure out who's in network so that you can check in. And you might even say, like I've heard a lot of young officers say, is like they're not afraid of the stigmas. The stigmas are much more minimal for the youngest
mhm,
generation, the youngest adult generation, and those after. So that's like kudos to them for being open and aware and emotionally intelligent, but saying like, yeah, I get it. Like life's stressful and this job is a lot, and so I'm going to know who to call. I'm going to know who I feel comfortable with reaching out to when that day should come. And I've even heard great examples like our chaplain years ago would say, hey, like I just go in quarterly, even if I feel like life's pretty grand. Like I just go in quarterly to check in and just make sure everything's like tightened up right. Like he kind of, gives like the auto mechanic example. Like, yeah, you should also just get your car maintained, even though you don't hear this loud clunking noise and the engine's not smoking. But a lot of times we in first responder work, the engine's smoking, and we're still like, yeah, it's fine. It's not smoking that bad,
Mhm.
right? So, I love that resource thing. Also, for the fitness, you could take that resource theme as well, right? There's always people around that if you feel uncomfortable, you're a little unsure. They seem to know what they're doing. I kind of think that's what I miss about some aspects of the big box gym culture is like generally people are very helpful. Um,
Mhm.
However, there's a lot of things I don't miss about big box gym culture. So I love where Doug, you said, take better care of your body. And when you said that, it made me think about not just going hard all the time because a lot of people that listen in are not the people that need to hear, yeah, you should work out. Yeah, someone's life might depend on it, including yours, the victims, your buddies. Like we get that. A lot of people that spend time listening to our types of content and discussions. However, there is this like what is the priority and then mind your longevity, right? And so I, as a younger man, had to grapple with overtraining,
Mhm.
mind over matter. Okay, cool. Mind over matter is a thing because your mind will beat what your body will want to do. And then you're limping around. And then what good are you limping around if you have to get in a foot pursuit, right? So those are a couple things that kind of bounced off my mind. But I loved how you guys kind of went to in both directions there.
Well, Eric, you have to control the controllables. You have complete control over what you put on your body. You have complete control of when you raise your hand, take a knee, ask for help, hydrate. I mean, those are the things you have control over. So
Yeah.
why miss an opportunity to do those simple habitual things?
Yeah. Yeah, for so the new people getting in where the job is really clunky. It's kind of like drinking through a fire hose early on. You're going to be in field training. You're going to be moving different shifts. I would recommend people not think about like a strict daily routine as much as I think about a pretty rigid weekly routine, right? So
Mhm.
your days off, you can catch up on sleep. You can catch up on like a really good workout. You meal prep, right? Because you don't know what's happening in the next couple days. And so just keeping it a little bit flexible, giving yourself permission. Um, Greg, do you have thoughts on that for the people coming in? Because you've been around for a bit and you've worked special teams in these high drive assignments. Also, I mean, you're talking about your military career alongside, which is not something that a lot of people can do and do successfully.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think going back to what Doug has said multiple times where it's like, "Don't be like me," so I'm gonna put this out there, is I never thought about self-care, um, giving myself permission and grace. That makes me sound like a therapist, but permission and grace to take a night to do absolutely nothing and to kinda relax. Obviously, you want to ensure that you're up on your learning domain so you can pass your next test or working on firearms and all that stuff, but, um, all that aside, I think it's super important, number 1, like, if you have a wife, a husband, significant other, and kids, is to talk to them to let them know, "Hey, my schedule is jam-packed. This is how I'm feeling. I'm gonna dedicate this day, this night to you guys." But I think it's super important for newer officers or newer first responders, whether you're in the academy or like your first 6 months to be like, "Hey, I need you to be on the same page as me. I need your support." There are gonna be days where I can give you 100%. There are gonna be days where I'm just gonna be a lazy bum and sit on the couch. Um, so I think working with the family, is a huge thing that doesn't
Mhm.
really get talked about. I always wish that first responder agencies in the academy would give resources to the family members to let them know, like, hey, this is what your husband or wife is going through. This is what we demanded them. They get extra burpees if their uniform isn't pressed and all this stuff, and this is what you can do to help, um, just to kind of set everybody up for success there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That communication is huge with your loved ones. Communication is huge with like your agency, right? You're new to this. Like, what are the expectations? There's the kind of written, clear expectations and that you get in an email and a memo. But then there's like the unspoken and how can we get better about giving people the tools to succeed? Because let's face it, We don't have like hundreds of people just like competing for those like very few spots. We have a lot of good people, but we have a ton of spots and we have a lot of not great people, right, nationally. So how do we
Mhm.
set up the ones that do make it through the gauntlet of hiring and treat them like they're a team member, like a valued team member that we're going to coach and mentor? Because I hate the cultures where it's like, hey, boot. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the word boot. I think it's how you use it and how you treat the person. I thought it was very like, I liked being called boot because I was like, oh, cool. I'm like part of the fold. It's part of this culture. Um, and I don't feel like I was treated like, like a POS when I was new. And I think the vast majority of the experiences I've seen, like people treat others pretty well. Um, However, it doesn't always happen. And I know a lot of agencies where it's very much like prove yourself. Um, and then by the time you make probation, then we'll like address you. I'll make eye contact and say your name. I'm like, what are we doing here?
I
This
Bro.
is
know.
childish child games. But yeah, Doug, anything else on kind of like building that structure and routines for newer folks? And then we've kind of teased on a lot of these themes that do go into your active mid-career 5, 10, 15 year officers and such. But anything for the newer people before we go there?
No, I think it's been covered, man. That was a great, great comment by Greg. Communicate expectations from the organization to their new employees, and from the new employees to their families. I mean, nobody gets through this alone, and that is clear. So, yeah, no, great. I think we
Yeah.
covered it.
All right. Well, cool. So now we're in the mid career, and that basically means anything from not brand new to not retired. But because I could pick like a certain number of years, right? Like 5, 10, 15. I've hit those, but then there's 20 and 25. I haven't hit those. But I feel like a lot of times it's cyclical. And I think that the
Mhm.
most people that I've talked to in my inner circles or just people on the show, like it's not just like one chunk of 5 years you experience a specific challenge. It's just more of like where were you at with life? And there are times when we were better balanced, there are times when we're not so balanced. There's times when I was in better shape, there are times I was in not so great shape. And so thinking of it broadly, both of you have kind of spoken to some of these coping mechanisms. And I think it was Doug that earlier on said like there's not so healthy ones. Um, Anyone want to start off kicking off like what types of things, maybe for you or those that we see in the profession that seem really let's just start with this. They're fine in moderation, but then we see all too often how they get out of balance and out of order and don't serve us.
I think we're thinking the same thing, Doug. Some of the unhealthy coping mechanisms, I mean, what
Yeah.
no matter what you do, if you're a first responder or service member, right? Like drinking is probably the number one that comes to mind for most people, right? It's a part of the culture, like choir practice back in the day, Doug, not to date you, but I know like
We have choir
after
practice
I
too.
know what choir practice is.
Yeah.
yeah, and like after a long weekend or whatever, when you get off and there are pros to it, but there are also like it improves team cohesiveness, team bonding and everything, but like we normalize drinking way too much in this community that then it's the easiest unhealthy coping mechanism, I
Well,
think,
it's legal.
because
So
it's
yeah.
legal, it's in every single household, it's
Mhm.
easy to get, it kind of numbs the pain for a little bit. And then it's fun socially, right? Like when you get together, it's fun to drink and hang out, and that's just kind of what you do. So for me, that's what comes to mind right away is the unhealthy coping mechanism of alcohol. And I mean, how many times have we seen the officers that get arrested for driving under the influence, or God forbid, there's a
Mhm.
collision involved in getting arrested with DUI, and then that you get a write up, you get suspended, your driver's license gets suspended, so you're doubled up with somebody for a month, and it's just a slippery slope.
Yeah. I was as I was saying that, it might have sounded it almost felt like a leading question, but I was trying not to just paint it that way, but I think that is a testament to how pervasive that alcohol is, right? And this is, the extreme majority of my adult life and even outside of my adult life, I partook in alcohol. And so right now I'm taking a little break, and a lot of that is not like a judgment of anyone. It's just like like I don't drink a whole lot these days. I drink less and less every year. But then like, why do I? And I heard an interview where a celebrity was kind of talking about like feeling uncomfortable, in social interactions without a drink in hand. And I'm like, well, that's probably me more times than not, unless there's a very clear reason why not. And so maybe I should explore that. And so it's just recognizing these things that are basically like adult pacifiers. And as I was saying, like that prompt, like, hey, what comes to mind? One that's been on my mind a lot is like screen time. It's social media. It's the doom scroll.
Oh my God.
I've
Yeah.
been, yeah, like I've been very intentional at times, like getting home late from work. I'm like, don't scroll. Like, have maybe just like decompress and read something, or just close your eyes a little bit, maybe listen to a meditation app thing, and then just go to bed. But I'm just not ready to go to bed, and then I'll pull out my phone, and then I'll grab some snacks, and then we're like an hour in. I'm like, dude, what did you do? So it is like a human thing, but I'm curious for both of you because we all run social media accounts, we all run podcasts. It's just a lot of time to do this thing that is meaningful, but it is slippery for me, and I'm curious what things are like for both of you running all these accounts. And then if there's any kind of guardrails or tips that you've found, because if y'all can do it, certainly all the listeners can do it if they're not running, a podcast or social media pages about first responder wellness.
Well, I'll let you know when I figure it out. um,
Yeah.
yeah, I went quiet over the last couple of months, and for whatever reason or another, but I got rid of a lot of the social media stuff that I was doing because you know you can't do a lot of things well. You can do one thing well, or you can do 25 things half-assed. And so I looked at the numbers, tried to decipher them as much as I could, and I got rid of the things that weren't giving me any traction, and where people weren't listening or engaging. So I focused in on the other things, and I got rid of all the other stuff on my phone. And I found that I had so much more time during the week by not doing that, and not caring what other people were saying or whatever they were doing, or saying, "Oh, okay, they're doing this, so maybe I should interview that person." No, you end up comparing either your trauma, your story, your success, your adventure, your path. You compare anything and everything to what other people are doing, um, and that's wholly unhealthy, man. It strips away from gratitude and being present in your own life. So yeah, definitely the doom scrolling. I mean, you look down, you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna look at this for a minute." Next thing you know, an hour's gone. It's
Hmm.
like, "Oh my god," I gotta start dinner, or I gotta do something, or feed myself, or take a shower, or you think about it in terms of, time lost, that 3, 4 hours, some people 6, 7 hours a day scrolling. I mean, that's meal prep, that's going to the gym, that's taking your kids to a movie, going to the park and throwing the ball with your son. I mean, that's so many things wasted because you're watching sound bites from somebody else's life. That's just yeah, bro, it's addicting. You get that, you get that endorphin, that
Hmm.
oxytocin, the little sugar for the soul, and it's awful, man. So, yeah,
Yeah.
if you get rid of that stuff, you're gonna find that you have a lot more time to do things that are important. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I
I'm
like
definitely with that scrolling stuff.
Yeah, and I think that a couple like huge themes for the episode will be like, what is the priority? And the priority is like for the people you care about, and that is like your family, that's your team, that's your community, like the people you know, and then also the people in this broader community, like the industry, the profession. But there has to be a hierarchy to that. There has to be a hierarchy to everything, or you do what Doug said is you do everything and you succeed at nothing. And a couple of things too, I heard it in like trying to conceptualize the impact is what is the goal, right? And is the goal to compare yourself to others? No, certainly not. Like I think all of us were like, hey, we're going to try our best and we're going to do this thing. If we can help a few people, then amazing. If we can help a few more, then, absolutely fantastic. But it's not to get like likes, it's not to get like shares. It's just to do the meaningful work and share the message that we know to be impactful and helpful. And the goal is not to be busy, right? And so we could be on all these different apps and like cross promoting these things. I have debated about getting rid of certain apps just because I'm like, I mean, like there's some positive interaction, but a lot of times my buddies just send me memes and it eats time, and half the time I don't watch them and I feel like I'm ignoring them. So all to say, it is a balancing act for everybody out there. Greg, what's on your mind with all that?
Kind of same thing as Doug, but I think I've figured it out a little bit. With prioritizing and being intentional with time. In the beginning, like when the Overwatch Collective first started, and then when we became a nonprofit and we were helping all these people and our numbers were increasing, and how quick we were able to get a first responder or service member connected to a therapist, like I was and still am like super excited about it. I love it. Like I want to get it out there. I want to help as many people. Where I first started, it was like, hey, I need to post everything. I need to be on it right away, quick, ASAP. And everybody's like, you can like slow down. I'm like, no, like I got to get it out there. I'm super excited. And then my wife Robin kind of checked me a little bit and was like, it can wait a few hours. Like you can bunch it all together in your emails and spend 30 minutes on talk stuff, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
posting stuff on social media, responding to a few emails, and then be done with it. I'm like, oh, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is why
I'm,
you're a therapist. Uh,
I'm going to rewatch this and write that down
yeah,
And
because my wife
an
tells me the same thing.
entrepreneur, right? She's running a business too, like, and she has to be organized. So like I wrote down batch scheduling, right? And so sorry I
yeah.
interrupted you, because I think that's applicable to everybody, especially because you don't get to choose what cases get thrown on your desk or when you get called out, but you can batch up the things that you want to do in the time that you can protect. From interviews to jail calls, Ditto Transcripts delivers fast, confidential, and court-ready transcription for law enforcement agencies. Ditto is CJIS compliant and is already working with agencies all over the U.S., including the Washington State Patrol and the National Park Service Investigations Unit. Get started now at dittotranscripts.com. That's dittotranscripts.com. To hear details about all the applications of Ditto Transcripts and exactly why this is a key solution for your organization's workload issues, check out episode 232. Are you looking for help with your rest and recovery, wanting to optimize your sleep and prime performance? Well, New Calm is built on neuroscience, and it's been used by special operators, SportTAC, pro sports teams, and many, many more for years. To learn more and access the best deals of the year, go to newcalm.co/grit. That's Newcalm, NUCALM.co/grit.
Yeah, and I think with scrolling too, right? Like I'm guilty of it. She's guilty of it too. But what we try to do is like be mindful of how much time we're actually spending. Because it is so easy to watch all these. For me, it's like the Navy Blue Angel videos, and I could sit there and rewatch them 18,000 times. Or you get like a funny golden retriever video. I could sit there and
The
watch it,
Goldens
but
get me every time.
yeah, and it just makes you happy. But if you set like a 15-minute alarm on your phone and be like, hey, I'm just going to give myself permission to lay on the couch. And maybe like with me, what I've been doing is laying on like a heating pad for my lower back. Set a timer for 15 minutes and just sit there and scroll and just go on TikTok or Instagram, scroll, laugh at stuff. And when the timer goes off, the phone goes away and I got to do something else. Um, and then like what we do at night sometimes, because I work graveyard and she's busy during the day, is um, like our days off. And I think this is important is to prioritize time with the family is
Mhm.
you try to do whatever you need to. And if you're busy, you tell people, hey, I'm going to be off my phone for tonight and put those phones in another room and just like sit there, listen to music and play Uno and Yahtzee. Like that's what we do. And it's so nice not having to look over at your phone every time it lights up. And then your mind goes to, oh, shoot, that's an email from Eric and Doug. I got to respond to them right away. Right. So
Yep.
that's something that's worked for me.
You know, going back to the unhealthy coping mechanisms and the things we do to, I guess, to avoid or to just keep moving forward. One of the things that I found, and the reason I went quiet for the last couple of months is because I have a problem with professional boundaries. I never said no to the bosses, never said no to a project. I always kept moving forward and took on more and more and more. Again,
Mhm.
having to be busy. Well, in this space now, man, I'm retired. You know, if I want to respond to somebody, I can respond to somebody. But since I don't have, those that end goal in mind, like Greg, I've got to answer this now. I want to answer this now. They've taken the time to do this. I want to be there for them, and it's I turned what was never meant to be another full time job into a 40 to 60 hour a week job. And then when you look at it, it's like, man, I've put in 40 hours to this project this week. Am I getting 40 hours back? Is the benefit really there to everybody else, or am I just spinning my wheels on ideas and things? And I think if you want longevity in any of the first responder disciplines, you have to set up personal boundaries and professional boundaries. And to tie it all in, you have to be intentional and set those boundaries at home. If I'm not getting paid, you don't get access. If oh, you're a supervisor now, you're on salary, cool. If I work a 12-hour shift, that's what you're paying me for. You're not paying me for the 13th hour. You're not paying me for my Saturday off. I'm dedicated, but no, you need to respect my space and you need to set those boundaries and respect your family's time with you. Um, Man, I feel horribly there. And now that I see the value of that, because I've got 2 kids in college and, you know, I'm now learning how to parent adults instead of parent children. I missed that stuff because I said yes to a project that could have been done by other people, but I had to be the guy.
Mhm.
So don't do that, man. To just that's mid-career stuff, because mid-career you're starting to look for promotions and movement and advancement and to contribute more to the organization. Guess what, kids? It's rented admiration. Everything that you pin on your shirt stays with the agency the day you walk out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids, you know, I was at all the baseball games. Was I present? Mm, I was standing there, but that's about as far as it goes. So yeah,
Yeah.
boundaries, man.
You
It's a big
you
one.
hit on a lot of things, Doug, and
I'm
a
sorry I do
couple
that
of
in my
them.
rants, Eric. You should know that by now.
No, I like them, and I'm just trying to piecemeal them back together for those of us that like to marinate on things. But the first thing that both of you guys spoke on was boundaries, right? Putting the phones over there. It sounds so simple, but if you don't do it, then you really need to explore it. And I'm not like one that prescribes a lot of things like you need to, but you need to on this one. Um, it's like the simple little movement of you get dinner with somebody or coffee with someone. If they put the phone on the table and they flip it over so the screen is down, like that signals something, right? It signals like if there's violent buzzing and beeping and all this stuff, they might say, "Hey, sorry," depending on their type of role or their type of job. But otherwise, they silence it, they look at it, and they put it back, right? But outside of that, like the screen's down, right? It can buzz, and they just don't look at it. They might like kind of turn and look back at you. Putting the phone away on the far end of the counter, like the kitchen, when you are in the living room with your family, like that's been huge for me. And it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect for
Mhm.
sure. And I definitely have ignored my family. I've ignored my little kid a lot of times because of work, because of things. And so that workahol is really pervasive because it's not just it's not just like this well, it can be a lot of things. It can be wanting to be productive and to be helpful. It's not always like this bad ego thing. A lot of times it is this desire to help. And that that workaholic aspect is one thing that a lot of people can understand. Um, Avoidance, that's pretty clear at times. It's not so clear at other times. But the peer support hybrid of, it's work, it's occupation, but also like because I really give a damn and I want to show up, like that's really slippery. And I felt that in myself.
Mhm.
I've seen it a lot in others. I think I've seen it more in others than myself because they will never say no. And they will be on the phone with somebody for an hour, but then they'll be on someone else, like they'll be hit up by somebody else. It's just the type of person they are, which is amazing. However, what's the priority? There might be a way. Hey, are you in crisis right now? No, I'm just like really frustrated. Okay, like text me. I'll get back to you like in an hour. Or hey, can we get coffee on Thursday? Is it not an emergency? Like I felt more comfortable with more time in the career and with the peer support role to basically be overt, like, hey, do you need to talk right now? And generally, when people text back, they're like, no, not right now. Like, thanks. Like, I just want to share something. I'm like, cool, I'll hit you back later.
Mhm.
Because then again, it's not ignoring the person, but then you're not ignoring the people you're with. Again, it's just priorities. How do you hold that tension? um, there's this newer idea. It's not a newer idea. It's newer for me, but we all know the victim mentality. I talk about a lot here. I'm frankly quite frustrated with it in myself at times, but then all of us in the profession. But one thing that came up in my mind is this idea of the hero mentality of like, man, it's got to be me. I'm the guy. Boss is calling. I'll save the day again. And again, it's not a malicious, like evil ego, like your ego's out of order, and needs to be checked. But usually it is this like this heightened like state of like, well, no one else can do it. I'm the person. Um, so maybe I just said it's usually not this elevated ego. It is a disordered ego, is when I marinate on this more. And it does take a team, right? Your agency is, whether it's 20 or whether it's, 2,000, there's a lot of people that can can take different pieces of this thing and get it accomplished in the moment. So,
Yeah, the problem is, though, you become the easy button for the bosses. If
mhm.
you become the person that if they give you X to execute, they know they never have to touch it again, you're the go-to, the only, and, that's not the case. I mean, if you're an agency of 2 people, that might be the case half the time, but if you're in an agency of 4,400, you're not the only dude or the only gal that can take care of this issue. So don't fool yourself, that it's not gonna slow down business if you take a vacation.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that, and it goes back to some of the earlier points you made, which is just expectations and communication, right? If you have an agency that expects you to be on for 10 hours, off for 10, like, or on for 12 hours, but you're truly there and you're truly on versus some that are on salary, which is like, yeah, some days you're gonna have long days, some days you're gonna have shorter days. Hey, by your role, you're on call. And so you're gonna have to pick up that phone or you're gonna have to designate somebody. Like that just can all be absolved with more clear expectations and
Yeah,
communication.
yeah,
Whether that's your workplace or any relationship, your significant other. When that's not firm, that's when misalignment happens. That's when resentment happens, and that's where you get these things like organizational betrayal. Because if you hired on somewhere and the executive was just like, you know what, you're a number. We're gonna put you through a meat grinder. So save yourself, save your buddy. We have this peer support program. I have nothing to do with it, but I approve it. Good luck to you. I don't think people would be quite as resentful because you knew that going in, right? And I know we could go down a rabbit hole there, but keeping to time, I want to be mindful of time, but we hit on a lot of things that are very, I guess they do transition into retirement. They talk about identity, like, hey, this job is not an eventuality. Like, you're not always going to be in this thing, but the ending of this job and career will be. Doug, how did you say that? You're renting. What did you?
the
I
all
love
the
that.
admiration is rented. I mean,
Yes.
you get to
Hmm.
stack all of the successes and, achievement and all that stuff, but once you leave, if I'm talking to anybody that's not in law enforcement, anybody in the military about any of my achievements, you have to give them the backstory of why that's important, why that matters. So, why don't you build on the things that you don't have to give a backstory? Like, hey, I'm involved in my church, or I'm involved in my community, or
Hmm.
charities, or hey, I went to my kid's baseball game the other day, and things don't require a backstory. Things are universal. All the stuff that's behind me on the wall, those you aren't listening, little shadow box and all that stuff. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. The casual person walking by, it really doesn't. So yeah, that's all rented admiration, man. Every
Yeah.
bit of it. You have the stories and the memories and you know that you made a difference, but that's it. Those are for you.
Yeah, and I love people to think about this. Like, it's part of some training that I put out, which is like, who are you? What is your mission? Like, what's your personal mission? And your career can absolutely be a part of that, but your mission should be able to carry on if you were to change careers, right? If you're
Mhm.
like, you know what, like, blew up both my knees, I can't be a cop anymore, so I'm going to start this security company. Your mission should be the same, right? It should still carry over and translate. Or if you retire, your mission should be the same. And you're a leader. What type of leader? Like, how do you interact with people? What's the legacy you leave with people that interact with you? They work under your command, or they're your peer, or you work for them, or they're your friend, right? Like, or they're a stranger that just met you. Like, what are these things that should be more universal than I think we give credit to when we don't intentionally think about it? And when you strip away all of that, when you strip away the things that are on the shadow boxes, um, things that are on my resume, yeah, things that are in a box, framed, whatever. Like, who are you? And you're not all that stuff. You are the
Mhm.
qualities and the traits that made those things possible.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I really appreciate you illustrating that because I think that's such a healthy thing to think about. Greg, I wanna turn it over to you and see what that kicks up because you have done a lot of things. However, you do also think and reflect on mortality in a lot of really constructive ways, right? Your whole project is on those we've lost and how do we keep from losing people and bringing them in, getting them the resource they need, getting them the help they need, and helping them know that they're not alone.
Yeah, and I kind of touching on what Doug said. It's you really have to balance your career, right? And like I know Eric, when we recorded our episode, it was maybe take on one or two specialty assignments and then do that for a few years, get rid of one, take on another. But I mean, don't do what I did. And I was in 7 collaterals and I was just way too busy, um, way too tapped out because I was the yes man. Like what Doug said, you want to give your best to every single collateral and you're ultimately tapped out where you can't even do your primary job as
Mhm.
traffic or patrol. I think going back really, really quickly, the 5 to 10 year cop, it's kind of like a catch 22 because you want to put yourself above others. You want to go out there and be the proactive cop. You want to have good reports. You want to get letters of commendation. You want all this stuff so it looks good for promotion. But I mean, how many times have we seen it, gents, where 10-year cop, something happens and then boom, you're not a cop anymore. And it's like
Mhm.
the department, most times than not, that's when you kind of realize that it's run like an organization and like a business where I hate it, but sometimes you are just like a number. And
Mhm.
I mean, like when I left after 10 years, I gave so much to that department. I was so busy. The next day they changed the codes on the door so I couldn't even get access, you
Oh,
know, and
man.
it's a hit, and even when you do an amazing 30-year career, like, you get a shadow box, you can pick what you want for lunch for that day, people come in, they shake your hand, they give you a shadow box and all this to say thank you for your service, and then boom, like, you don't have peer support resources, there's no preparing for retirement, this is what you may experience, here's a podcast to listen to in preparation, you know? I can go on and on about that. Like we do so much to get into the career. We do a psych, a medical to ensure that you're prepped to be a cop. But then when you go to retire, it's like, is all your paperwork in for retirement?
Yep.
Cool. What do you want for lunch? We'll get it. And then boom, you're out. Um, that's kind of my big thing on that. And then obviously with the mental health and knowing your resources, like I think that's why so many people like us are doing what we do, where it's a collective effort to talk about all this, right? The physical health, the mental health, and where your resources are, because it's kind of like the military side with the VA. Like they can't do it all, you know. So it's kind of a sometimes it's like a knock on the department, but sometimes you have to realize that they can't do it all.
Mhm.
You know, I want all leadership to rewind about 30 seconds and write down what Greg just said. You know, we do all of these things to get in. You know, if you went on the SWAT team, bomb team, peer support, hostage negotiator, you had to do the psych eval that is more narrow scope than the initial entry. And they do those things. And, you know, after an officer involved shooting, you have to go and see the doc and make sure that you're adjusting. But at the end of 10, 15, 20 years, whether it's natural retirement or an injury retires you, or it's a personal thing where you have to leave the profession, there's no check-in. You know, they change the code. They deactivate your swipe card, and you know, the day before you check out, they give you a list of the things that you owe them,
Mhm.
but they owe you nothing. So
Yeah.
I think making sure that folks, like when you get out of the military and separate from the military, there's an out process. You know, you do your dental, you do your medical, you do the psych, you do all of the things, and you know, you check off the blocks on the things that they should owe you. And I think making sure that we're sending people that are whole or as close to whole, or at least with the resources to become whole. I think I think that would be a wonderful shift to see in the first responder disciplines and organizations to make sure that there's an exit strategy, like a transition assistance program, as it were, for first responders.
Yeah. You said it really well there. And I think that it's when we get resentful about the machine being a machine, I think that's a waste of energy. However, you did identify some specific things that we can do better. And I know your story, I read your book, pretty stark, one that we won't go down there right now, but there are agencies that probably communicate these things and have networks and communities. And then
Mhm.
there are the others where it's just like, cool, like, check out and see you later. Um, I think that I really caution because I don't wanna, kick up to another, like, 20, 30 minutes, but it's like, the more I expect something, the more disappointed I may be. Whereas, like, so much I think we can
Mhm.
do, like, by recognizing our own internal mechanisms, like, are we reflecting and building up our own sense of identity before that? It's almost like you
Yeah.
get hired, and unless anyone makes you work out, are you gonna do it or not? And so it is like it is a message of ownership, not to excuse poor leadership, not to excuse agencies that aren't supporting their people. Absolutely not. I do think agencies should have access to health resources. I think they should actively destigmatize these things. I do think that they should have mechanisms to let you rest, recover between shifts, call outs, things like that, and work out on duty and have means to do it and have resources, right? But like, I can't make you do those things. And so I hope that that makes sense. Like, I think there's a balance. Um, but I'd hate for like the early officer to be like, oh yeah, my agency sucks. No one cares. It's like, well, the
Yeah.
agency doesn't care. The people may, depending on the relationships you're building.
You know, I think it circles back to control the controllables.
Hmm.
You know, you have to take ownership, like you said, of your own stuff. And uh, in my story, you know, back in 2019 when I raised my hand, what we know today is not what was known then. The
Mm,
things there was no Overwatch Collective then. I mean, these things that we have access to and that I'm aware of now, I don't know that they existed back then. So I think as organizations grow and leadership grows and we become more aware of this stuff, they're taking more action. So I know that it is more robust in larger agencies now than it was, specifically the one that I left. At any point in time, I could have taken ownership at any bit of that. You know, I over identified and all of that. You know, I expected a an organization or a profession to love me back. Well, it's not possible. So you have to set reasonable expectations, and it goes back to communication and communicating expectations and all of those things. So yeah, I no, there's definitely a healthier way and a healthy way to make it through uniform service. So
yeah.
and the things that both of you guys doing are doing specifically with you know how to pass the you know the oral reviews when you come to the academy and the promotional testing and everything that Greg's doing with buddy checks and Overwatch Protect or Overwatch Collective. I mean, it's all there now. So you just have to go look for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you giving grace to the old, old institutions, and times are changing, and the
Mhm.
more we expect, then the more we'll deliver, because some people listening are going to be the future chiefs and sheriffs that are going to like greenlight these things, despite some of their underlings are like, no, I want it, build it, make it work.
It's
Which
exciting.
is, yeah, it's exciting. Absolutely. I want to be mindful of time, and I know Greg has a hard cutoff. So Greg, is there anything you wrap with and leave us with, and then please tell us where people can find out more about the Overwatch Collective?
Yeah, I think the last thing is kind of just know that at the end of your career, it's going to be you, right? Like where Doug's position's at. It's going to be your health. It's going to be your mental health. Everybody in the first responder community goes through a lot, and just take care of yourself. Try to do the best that you can for your agency and promote and enjoy, but at the end of the day, take care of yourself. That it's a collective effort, as we always say. We have so many people here, whether you want help with nutrition, physical fitness, help for oral boards, help for retirement, like you reach out to any three of us and we'll get you kind of steered in the right direction. Where to find me? You just type in the Overwatch Collective, nonprofit podcast funding therapy for first responders, vets, confidential, quick, and easy process. As of now, we've had 289 people go through us and over 320K spent on therapy. So if you need anything, we got you. Greg at theoverwatchcollective.com. That's it.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to hop off if you need to. Um, so, Greg, when you think about retirement, like, what are some themes that help you as you navigate like the rest of your many years left in law enforcement?
Like in preparation for retirement?
Yeah, wherever your head goes, or like, I mean, I'll just tease this because I've been thinking about it a bit. Is I try to, and this came up in a conversation with someone that was they were I don't know if burned out's the right word. I think that there's burnout, and then there's like we dance and we kind of flirt with the thing that's on the outer rim of that a lot. Um, but I asked them to think about, because I've thought about this, is like, pretend this was your last 2 weeks of the job, and like, is how you're working the job and your time off, like, is it going the way that makes sense, or is does that prompt make it feel like you need to do something way different? And it was like, I didn't think it was as significant of a prompt as they reacted to, where they're like, whoa, man, that's a lot to think about. And they kind of like just kind of walked away and said, thanks. And I was like, oh, they got some work to do. Um,
Mm.
but for me, it's like, it helps me think about how I'm relating to people. Like, am I giving time? Um, what's really important, right? Is it a contract, that's on my desk? Is it use of force review? Some of them are, because I want people to learn, and I want people to know and have the constructive dialogue to be safe. And some things aren't, because they're just, small, whatever. It's just bureaucratic, administrative stuff. But it kind of helps me focus in on like what's important, and then the 2 weeks kind of gives you a more realistic, I think, purview than like one day. Like, if today was your last day on the job, you're like, all right, let's get in pursuit or something, right?
That's
But if
where
it's
my
two
head went.
weeks,
Yeah.
right. So, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to see if there's anything for you there.
Yeah, I think preparation for retirement, is just to make sure like all the admin ducks in a row and your retirement fund is doing well there, and then you're enjoying the time with the crew, the guys and the gals. I think
Hmm.
that's one of the things that a lot of people miss the most. Um, so enjoy that, yeah, and then a good violent felon foot pursuit after a vehicle crash, and yeah, give me that, and then I'd be good. Be able to work outside of law enforcement and find something that kind of keeps me entertaining, and can put everything that I've learned throughout my career and through the Overwatch Collective into something else, and thrive. And I think it's always good to kind of have a backup plan as well. So
Mhm.
I'd be fine with another 2 weeks, and then prep and get out.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Greg. Doug, I'm going to turn over to you, and I guess like the multi-part question will be, what are some of the biggest lessons learned in identity and retirement and in your growth journey, that people can take and kind of internalize for whatever process they're in, or whatever stage in their career or life they're in?
Well, in the very beginning, your first day, you should already be planning for your last 2 weeks in your retirement. Faith, family, finances, fitness. And, if you concentrate on those throughout your entire career and you balance them at whatever level of priority you put those in, I think that's important. As far as identity, man, when I came in, the profession almost dictated that you go all in. You had to be. It's what you did. It's what you were. You were part of the living, breathing machine. And, it find out now, wholly unhealthy. Um, your off ramp to retirement, like I said, start the day that you start.
Hmm.
I think a good off ramp for transition is at least a year and a half out, trying to figure out what you wanna do, because it wasn't until after I retired that I realized that what I had done in uniform over 30 years, um, was never my purpose. It was my path to the purpose, certainly. And I use everything that I've learned over the last 30 years. In the last 2.5 years, I've been retired to grow and be intentional and do what it is that I'm doing now. But if every bit of this ended, that's fine. I'm not the tell this story guy. I'm not the post-traumatic growth guy. That's Travis Gribble. Um, but I'm
Shout out Travis.
yeah, no, he's awesome. Um, but no, man, I'm happy to be here, and I think keeping your mind open to whatever possibilities are out there. And if your career is cut short, whether it's something administrative or an injury or just it's time for you to go, um, don't ever believe somebody when they say this is all you can do or you're lucky to be here. Because if you were smart enough to pass the entrance exams for the first responder disciplines, or you were successful in the military, any of the first responder or uniform services, you were capable of so much more than the average Joe walking down the street. So don't believe the self-limiting garbage that you tell yourself. Don't believe that story, because that's dated information. And don't believe somebody when they say this is all you're good at. You can do anything. And I'm so impressed with the people that I've met throughout my career and even post career. I mean, Eric, you were probably one of the most introspective and grounded old souls that I have ever met. Chris Littrell, that guy is just, man, he just always thinking. There's so many people out there that just see so much more than I did, and so much more than I do. So, um, man, I don't know. I'm getting off on a rant again, but I just think, um, knowing that you're more than this job, knowing that you're more than what's pinned on your shirt, or what, the successes that you may have stacked in your your career. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
No, that's a lot of good stuff. It's like to know who you are, you need to know what you're about, and it's not your achievements, it's the intentions, the actions you put into it, it's your relationships, it's your
Mhm.
values, and that's why I time and time again, the older I get, the last few years, I've really vocal about asking people to start writing some of this stuff down, and then put it in your calendar to revisit every year, every 6 months, whatever you wanna do, because it helps you reorient on it's kinda like zooming in and zooming out, like, what is really important here? Is it the little tiff with his coworker? Is it the drama at work? It's like, no, that's all BS. It's all pretty arbitrary. You do what you do because you believe in it, and then you hold your head high in that, right? And defeat some of the limiting beliefs that I mean, it's fantastic that you're so aware of that, Doug. For a lot of us, I think that is the superpower. Is once we get out of our own way and just be the best version of ourselves, unapologetically, like that's the platinum standard of life. And I'm working on it. So,
Me too.
too, Doug. Please tell us where people can find you.
The easiest way to find me is through my website. All my socials are linked there, and that's dougwhiteofficial.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, gentlemen. Fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.